Hello, hello. It is Tuesday, and boy, what a busy Tuesday. It's been a
Hmm.
little crazy today. That's okay. But I'm Lindsay Weber, Keystone Mortgage Solutions, and we are here with Miss Kayla McDonald, realtor with Remax Alliance Group.
I almost said good
And
morning.
what's that?
Almost said good morning.
Good morning. We're still in the morning.
Yeah.
Feels like it. It's all right. Um, I guess recovering from. I hope everybody did okay with our storm. I know that there's definitely some local flooding here.
Hmm.
Lots of debris, like odd. Like weren't directly hit with this storm, but like in comparison to the last one that ran the same route, like the debris that came out of the trees and all. I guess it's a different time of year. I have no idea, but it's like crazy how
The
all the tree
wind.
branches are down and
Yeah.
just the stuff everywhere. But anyway,
We actually
um,
got some decent rain here too.
all the ponds are full. They're beautiful. The
Yeah.
wildlife is loving life. We're gonna have lots of
Mhm.
mosquitoes. We were just talking about that the other day, but
Super exciting.
um, what's that?
Exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. More mosquitoes.
So I just wanted to say, that if anybody needs anything, please don't. I mean, reach out. There's lots of people in our community that are willing to help out with anything that's needed,
Yeah.
um, and that hope everybody did well and that there's not too much chaos happening. But I think we had to recover from that a little bit yesterday. We still had storms yesterday. It's still
Hmm.
windy today.
It's supposed to be windy, I feel like, all week.
Yeah, I haven't
And
watched the news.
yeah, I mean, I think it's supposed to be windy and just scattered storms throughout the week. From what I saw. I mean, obviously that can change because it's the weather and you know.
Anything in Florida, it could be beautiful
Yeah.
one second and pouring the next.
Yep. For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
So I guess while we're on that topic, and this is something, a video like I was telling you earlier that I wanted to do, just for some information, because there's a lot of false information or just not knowing or understanding flood insurance and being on the water. I mean, I actually just had this conversation with somebody this morning, because a lot of people think that you just cannot get flood insurance if you live on the water or in a flood zone or on a canal, and it's really crazy. They're like, well, so the person that asked me this morning, she's like, so what is it like, when you're on a canal? It's just these insurance companies, they just don't want to insure you. And I'm like, no, that's not a thing. And then somebody else, I've been talking with an out-of-state client. She is up in, I think, Pennsylvania, and it's just their dream to move here and live on the water somewhere. They're not exactly sure what neighborhood yet, but she's like, all these people are telling me that it's just impossible to get insurance. And she's like, is that true? I said, no, that's not the case. So I think that there's just a common, and maybe there's a misconception or just a lack of just knowing, because Florida in the last few years has had this insurance crisis where.
I think when they hear the term insurance companies are pulling out, that doesn't mean that there's not
Mhm.
other
Cover.
insurance companies or that there's no coverage or
Yeah.
things like that. And I think that ultimately, is it perfect? No. Is it getting better? I
Yes.
think that it is. I'm seeing on my side, because although I don't know insurance, I still have to have insurance policies for, all the properties that I close. So I'm seeing a trending, going in the right direction. We're not
Right.
fighting. We're not to get insurance. We don't have one company. We're getting multiple offers. They're getting closer in dollar amount for coverage, because sometimes I was seeing for quite some time, we'd get really crazy expensive policy and then we'd have a really cheap one. I'm like,
Mhm.
no, how to advise anybody. I'm not an insurance agent, but I definitely see a difference. We'll call it that
Yes.
from just seeing. So I
Right.
apologize for interrupting. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. But yeah, no, I'm seeing the same thing. And I've actually seen on some of my listings where they're paying more in insurance coverage for one reason or the other, whether it's, flood and homeowners actually. And I'm like, wow, that seems kind of high. Let me see if I can get a quote for you. and a lot of times, not every time, a lot of times I'm able to find them a quote that is less expensive than what they're currently, paying by, like, sometimes it's like $2,000 for the year. Sometimes it's like three or four
Which is
thousand.
big.
Right.
That's
And then
huge.
it is big. I ran a quote for a potential listing for a canal front house, and they're paying, I think, like $6,500 for their flood for the year.
Mhm.
And I was like, and they're a 2-story also. So I was like, this seems a little high. And then I was able to find them something for like around $3,000, like
I mean, so,
3,500.
think about that. You said it was like $6,000 that they currently had. So
Mhm,
flood insurance, they're paying $500 a month.
mhm.
And if you were able to get it to down to, would you say three?
Yeah, it was like 3,000 or 3,500 or something.
So we go to 250, 260, 250, 260, somewhere in that range. That's a
Yeah,
huge
that's a big,
difference.
it is. It is. And
Do your due diligence, I guess, is the point for that.
yeah,
We get multiple quotes.
right. And sometimes people don't know. And I feel like feel like it's kind of similar to car insurance. Like sometimes you might be with this insurance company for a few years, and then you just don't shop around. Like it just keeps going up and up and up.
Right.
Sometimes I was in that cycle. And that's before I switched to, I had USAA for like 15 years, and I was paying like 200 and something dollars a month for me, for my coverage. And then I ended up switching over to State Farm with Ed Burke. And it was like, I don't know, under $100 a month or something. Like it was like I saved more than, yeah, like I was saving $150 or something a month. And it was insane. I was like, this is weird. Now, obviously the house, like the homeowner's insurance and flood is a little bit different because depending on the age of your home, I know you need to have a new 4-point inspection done. If the home's, I want to say it's 20 years or something. I can't remember the exact date, but when you have maybe it's like 10 years or something. I can't really remember, but a certain age, you don't need to have a 4-point inspection done on the home. And, just because of the age, and they can write a new policy. Sometimes having a 4-point inspection done is beneficial depending on if you have like extra hurricane straps or something where you can get a discount. But, majority of the homes that are, especially built before 2000.
And I personally know, like with State Farm, because I have the same coverage that State Farm allows you to bundle your cars and of course your home and other things along the way. And because you're bundling all of your stuff, you definitely get some significant discounts. We need to have him come in here and talk to us about it. We should invite him to come on.
Yeah.
And
Ed Burke.
Yeah, Ed, let's call him out. Just to kind of show the difference between his types of policies that he has that has the capability of doing that, compared to some of the other companies, because everybody's different. And then, just that education, I think, will be good.
Yeah. And then with them, I know that they don't specifically, State Farm doesn't insure houses. I think it's older than 2002 or 2004. But they can broker out to citizens, so they can still get a policy through their agents through Citizens Insurance as well. From my experience with working, with them and sending clients over to them and whatnot. But
we'll have to have him come on and tell us all the ins and outs.
Yeah, because I don't know all the ins and outs, but I just know from what I see and from, like you with the policies, and then like too, living on a canal and like it's not impossible to get flood insurance. It's not impossible to get homeowners insurance. And I know that depending on the house and how, if it's raised, if it's not, if it's in a lower lying area, because
the elevation.
Yeah, the elevation is going to vary from house to house, from lot to lot, because my elevation is going to be different than my neighbor's elevation, and sometimes you can't even see it, just by looking at it. It's not always visibly I don't know what the word I'm looking for, like a parent, I guess. It's not really like, it doesn't like stand out at you all the time. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you're like, whoa. But
Looks like an infinity pool. Yeah, we might need the blender.
right. But you know, I just, it's just questions I get all the time. How much is the flood insurance there? Well, it depends. You're going to be able to get it. The only time that I see and have a problem is when a house has had multiple claims, like flood claims and flood losses made on it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, then not saying that they can't get it, but it just might be pretty high because of that. And a lot of times what we'll just suggest is to assume their policy that the current owner has if they're buying that house. Most, I can't say all, but most policies you can take over for flood. You know, unless that carrier is just not writing policies anymore in the state or something. But I haven't come across one where they were like, nope, you can't assume it.
Right.
So yeah, that's just, I think that's kind of like a myth, I guess, or something where people just think it's going to be really, really hard to get insurance or impossible.
Something just because, again, we're talking about it. A lot of times, as you know, I get asked to, hey, I need some numbers run on this particular property. And I utilize the tools that I have. So a lot of times it ends up coming up in Zillow, and then I go into like to find out the taxes, but my insurance is always estimated. So I truly have like no real way, unless I were to go and find a site to kind of get an idea of how much the insurance would be on that particular property. So most of the time it's an estimate. And I just had a client the other day say, hey, are these quotes that you're giving me including flood insurance? Well, no, because number one, they're not in a flood zone. So that didn't trigger me to add that into my numbers. So that would definitely be something that if you're shopping around looking for a home and you automatically know that no matter what, whether the house is in a flood zone or not, that you're going to want flood insurance, either one, ask them to include that in your quote that you're getting for your mortgage payment. Because I wouldn't know unless, well, now I know because she asked me, hey, are these including flood? But for the most part, if it's not required, then it's not something that I'm quoting within my mortgage payment.
Right.
And that would be something that they would definitely have to look at, because I have no way to know even a percentage unless somebody wants to educate me and say, hey, you could use this as a rule of thumb to calculate flood insurance. But I really have no idea of what that percentage would be based on, you know, the type of home that they're buying if it's not required.
Right.
So good rule of thumb, like, you know, if that's something that you definitely want to incorporate in your insurance quote to let whoever you're working with know, so they can give you the proper figures and numbers or help you do this.
Yeah. In a lot of times, if you already have an insurance agent or not, a lot of insurance agents will run quotes for you, even if you don't own the house or if you haven't placed an offer on the house yet. You know, that's something that I always do is, one, if we're talking about flood zones specifically, because, you know, that
may find out, because it can be 500, it can be 10,000. I have no idea.
So find out what the current owner pays. And then I also, you know, get quotes as well, because sometimes they could be overpaying or paying more than they need to, or sometimes they could have a really great policy and you're like, oh, I want to take over their policy because I'm going to save $1,000 a year or $2,000 a year or whatnot. So, you know, you just definitely have to find out for yourself and then see what they're paying.
Do you have a tool that you use, or do you actually call an agent for each and every one?
I call an agent. I feel like that's the only way to be accurate. I think, I mean, unless there's a tool out there that I don't know about, but I have an agent that I just will send the address over to and ask for quotes for a specific property address, especially if it's something that, you know, that my clients are really considering placing an offer on, or that if I'm going to be listing it, you know, and I always let her know, like, hey, it's not a rush. I'm listing this one next week or whatever. So, you know, but yeah. And then sometimes sometimes their quotes will change a little bit. I had one that changed, it increased, based on the 4-point inspection.
Mhm.
It wasn't by a lot. It was like by a couple $100, but just after they got the 4-point done on this specific property, because of, I don't know, maybe the roof or something changed. I'm not really sure, but it did go up a little bit. But sometimes it can go down a little bit if it has something different, like in their wind mitigation, that will offer like a discount. So it just depends.
So I wonder, and this is something that we can ask an insurance agent, because I really don't know the answer. I know that the insurance premiums change like for a car with age. Wonder if it's the same thing for homeowners insurance. I do know that we have to provide date of birth, but I don't know what bearing that has on the quote.
I feel like I don't know the true answer for that.
I don't know either. We'll find it.
I think that if it does, then maybe it would have to go based on like the age of your systems or whatnot. But I don't know. I kind of don't feel like they should.
I think it's different.
My opinion is I don't feel like they should be able to do that.
My assumption is that it would be different, because it shouldn't matter like if you have a 20-year-old buying a house compared to a 60-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't really know that answer. Maybe it's different if it's like a 55 plus community, or who knows.
Yeah. Or just the age of the systems as your home itself ages.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
that's definitely a good question to ask, because I don't know. My opinion is I think that it should matter. And I don't think that it should matter either. Like if you buy a house that has like a 15-year-old roof or a 10-year-old roof or whatever,
well, sure, that definitely I would say would have a bearing on it. But I just mean the age of the buyer.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because I definitely know that it absolutely has to do with cars, but for obvious reasons, and you don't have the same experience as a young kid. But anyway, we'll have to ask. I wrote it down to put on our list to ask.
Yeah, definitely.
Interesting. So we'll segue a little bit, unless you have further.
No, that's pretty much it. You can get flood insurance. It is not impossible to get flood insurance, whether you're in
and we can get some good
zone or canal or whatnot.
Who you're working with, and making sure that you do your due diligence and get multiple quotes and get the proper inspections and get the guidance that they need. So for sure. And I think it's great that you go and get insurance quotes on your listings. It never crossed my mind that that would make the most sense of if you're listing a property, when we're running quotes to get real information. It'll be great, because right now mine's I'm not transparent and honest. Mine's an estimate, and I tell them that every time. I'm like, I have no idea what you're going to choose for your insurance, because they can choose the agent, they can choose the coverage, they can choose a lot of the policy itself. So ultimately, it's up to you. Do you want a bare bones policy, or do you want all the bells and whistles to cover everything? Which, of course, you're going to pay a little bit more, but for better coverage. So, it's really up to them. But along with that, we're definitely seeing some changes in the market here. I'm a little excited. I hope it's not premature, but I'm a little excited. Of course, the Feds met, I guess, last week now, and they decided to hold the interest rates. So everybody's like, okay, well, if they're holding the interest rates, why are interest rates going down?
Right.
It's a very in-depth conversation, but the gist of it is basically our mortgage rates are based on the 10-year treasury. And the 10-year treasury, I believe last week fell almost by half a point, 0.40. So the Dow fell, NASDAQ fell. So all of these things are coming down, which directly affect our mortgage interest rates. And we've seen some pretty great pricing the last week, we'll call it. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. It kind of bounces a little bit, but there was some quotes that I was giving last week that were, we'll call it in the high fives. So that's pretty significant, because we were definitely in the higher sixes, and maybe costing a little bit of money, as far as points are concerned, but we're definitely seeing some improvement in interest rates. Is it as low as it's going to go? No, I don't think so. But I'm definitely seeing some improvement, which are going to help things along a little bit.
Oh, for sure. It's gonna help both buyers and sellers.
Yeah.
Because buyers are able to afford a little bit more. Because the beginning of the week last week, we were probably at like a 6.7 ish average.
Average, yeah.
And then now we're high fives, low sixes.
Yeah. Yep. And when I mean high fives, I'm talking like, hey, we're at like 5.8, 5.9. So we're pretty much at 6%, but it's a lot better than, we're almost at 7. So
yeah, pretty much. I mean, it does make a difference in affordability, and, it's going to make a difference in some of these homes that have been sitting for a while. And, people might have been stretching to get into a house whatever that price range is. So, it's going to be really good for both sides. And, I know that now that we're in August is usually a slower month for the real estate world, at least on my end, that I've seen, except for I think 2021, for obvious reasons. I don't think there was a slow month at all. But yeah, it's usually a slow month.
The kids are going in Florida. Particularly, kids are right. Summer's over. Kids are getting ready to go back to school. So the family focus kind of is changing a little bit, trying to get the kids back to school and
staying and
And I think that we'll have a little pickup. Probably, I would say in September. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. And then holiday time comes, and then your focus changes again.
Yeah.
But it is election year, so
this year is going to be interesting. I think
what happens. Yeah,
I think it's going to get really interesting, especially once these rates come down a little bit more.
Yeah,
wherever that number.
Well, I'm not lying. Like, I've taken our time because, let's face it, we all had some downtime. I feel like I didn't have any downtime, but I changed my process. I changed my procedures. I changed the flow of the way that we're doing mortgage loans to be able to take the influx that I believe is coming.
Yeah.
To be able to keep up, to be able to continue giving good customer service, to be able to update all parties, along the way. So I've really taken the time and it's taken a long time, I'm not going to lie, to put some different processes in place, to really streamline the whole entire transaction, which I think is important across the board. It's important for the realtor to be updated completely, along the way. It's important for the buyers. It's important for the other agents just to know everything that's going on within the transaction. And of course, keeping our clients up to date, because they don't do this every day like you and I do. We do this every single day, and it's almost second nature. But they're kind of lost because they don't do this all the time. Yes, they buy multiple houses during their life, but I can guarantee you that the process that they did 10 years ago when they bought their house compared to the way that they do it now is night and day.
Right.
This goes along a little bit what we were talking about earlier, is that we kind of keep behind the scenes of all the things that go on, that take place. And we were trying to come up with an explanation of why we do that. And the only thing I can think of was to make it seamless for our client. But making it seamless for our client is also kind of hiding all the things that are going on. And we're trying to not overwhelm them with all the things that are taking place in your side of the transaction, my side of the transaction, the appraiser and the title company. And it's a lot. And I think that we've taken on that, we'll call it burden for lack of a better explanation, to keep it easy for the client. But in the same breath, like, are we disservicing them by showing the work that is going into the transaction and making them feel like that we are doing a good job for them? when they don't know. So
yeah. I mean, it's something that it's, I don't know. I think the only people that actually really tell, like, give like a log or attorney is like, here's your docket and this is what we did.
right. Like, let's write it all down of all the different steps. Well, the crazy part is that I literally had to do that. If I could show you, I don't think I have my bag up here, but I literally wrote on a piece of paper and sticky notes all the different milestones of my whole entire transaction and put sticky notes. Okay, in this particular milestone, these are all the things that need to be done within that section, we'll call it. And it was actually eye-opening when I did it. And I'll take a picture of it and I'll put it in the comments, just because I think it's so interesting to know, and written down on a piece of paper with sticky notes, all of it, of all the different steps that go into the transaction from start to finish. All the follow-ups, all the entering information, all the updates, I mean, it's extensive. So it's pretty
it is. And not every transaction is the same too.
They're not. Definitely.
Like, you have your obvious things.
If this occurs, this has to happen.
Yeah. So it's definitely a ever moving process.
And we're hoping for less, but a lot of times it becomes more steps because of whatever has transpired. So
right, whatever complication or just something pops up, you just never know. They're not all like that. They're not all like that, but yes, lots of things to navigate for sure.
And one of the things that, that we were just talking about is when you're listing a home, again, putting that extra step in to make sure that you have insurance quotes to, add to the mix. And I'm sure that you have a list of more than I can imagine, because I don't know the job of what your process is from start to finish, for the realtor side. It's incredible. And all the changes that are coming up. Let's face it, we're trying to navigate that as well.
Which a lot of those come into effect today. So today.
I'm so bad. Yeah. Today's date is 6th. Today's 6th.
The 6th. Yeah. So now there is no offers of compensation in MLS. So all the listings and everything that had that. So now before we go and show a house, we have to, we have to have an agreement with our buyers, whether it's a showing agreement or just an agreement,
that you'll be compensated for the work that you're doing.
Right. Yeah. Which doesn't, and I know that we've talked about this a couple of times, but it doesn't necessarily mean that your buyer is paying you, because the listing agent or the seller might still be offering whatever that compensation is. But, this is just the new rule. And then we have to call the agent and say, hey, are you or the seller offering compensation? Because that way you can, prepare your buyer. Hey, this one's not offering it. We're going to try and get you some concessions in order to, pay me, or, whatever that might be, whatever that agreed upon amount is between that agent and that buyer. But it's just, you got to have that conversation with your buyer, just so they know either they're going to be responsible, or it's
that you're negotiated within the transaction itself,
or you're going to be
typical way. And I'll keep saying that.
Yeah.
Forever, because I think that's in the best interest of all parties, is to continue that. It wasn't written in stone, but it's always been that way for many reasons, but here nor there. Like we've talked about it, but I think it's really important that, and I know that that they're taking the time to explain that, up front, and that there are changes within our industry all the time. And we kind of go with the flow, and it just becomes natural at some point in time. And then they change it again.
Yep. So it'll be, lots of changes, of course, but it's going to work out. Yeah, it'll be okay.
It'll be okay.
How many changes have they made in the mortgage industry over the last, I don't know, let's just say even the 5 years, 10 years?
So, I mean, the list is long, and ultimately, like, we have changes every single day. Like, if I really truly were to look at like guidelines and like really deep dive into like specific programs, so there's changes every single day. Fannie makes changes, Freddie makes changes. When we're running automated underwriting, that has changes. Credit scores, we're not even talking about like disclosures in itself is a whole nother, and compliance is a whole nother thing that's changed all the time. And you, not always for the better either, but it's still a change that we still have to mold. And, calculations, the way that they have calculated things and the way that we've calculated things that are doing it on a daily basis are very different, but it's still a change, and we still work it out, and we still figure out the way, because this is what we love to do.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Navigate through it.
Yeah. The way that it goes. So anyway, I guess we're seeing a turn. I think that a lot of people that have been on the sidelines waiting, might be a good time to start looking.
Yeah, start easing back into the market. And
we still have down payment assistance, multiple avenues. If you're a first time home buyer and you need that assistance, with the rates going down, you probably qualify for a little bit more than you were, say, in the last 6 months or a year or so. A little bit more comfortable payment, I think. We still have equity in most of all of our homes. There's different ways that can be utilized. So point is that I think over the next few months that we're definitely going to see some movement. And if anybody is looking or wants to see what they can afford, we're here.
Yeah. I mean, we say it all the time. You just have to have a conversation. It doesn't lock you into anything, and you don't know what you don't know. So, try not to listen to people who aren't in the industry, or people who have maybe purchased a house 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or whatnot. I mean, even 4 or 5 years ago, we were in a different market back then, and rules change all the time, and circumstances change all the time. So have the conversation and see if it's something that you're ready to do, and it's something that's feasible and affordable for you.
Yeah. And to know all the ins and outs. Like a misconception is, they're going to have to pull my credit, and if I'm not ready, then they're going to pull my credit again. Well, there's things that can be done that doesn't necessarily mean that we have to pull hard credit pull. We can do soft credit pulls, get all the information that we need. Sometimes, depending upon the circumstance, if you know more about your credit score than I do, I'm going to listen to you. We can still work out a scenario.
Yeah.
Hey, assuming that the information that you're giving me is correct. Now, I'm not going to give you an approval letter to go and start shopping, but it can be a conversation of, here's what I owe, here's my estimated credit score, here's how much money that I make, so on and so forth. Like, we can at least come up with a game plan of what we're going to do when that time comes that you do feel that you are ready. So sometimes we don't even need a credit report, is my point, to be able to have a conversation.
Right. Exactly. Some people know that information and all their ins and outs of their debts and everything. So,
yep. We have some news on Thursday. What's today? Today's Tuesday. So 2 days we'll have some jobless claims. We're going to see what that does. We'll see some rate changes. Rates change on a daily basis, guys, sometimes multiple times a day. Is it astronomical? No, but it goes like this, up and down, and till we find the happy place.
Yeah.
Happy place that everybody's happy with, and that's usually what I try to find, is the happy place for everybody.
Yep.
Whatever works for their scenario. So, Miss Kayla,
I think that is it. I think we, covered everything that we wanted to today, and we have some guests coming up the next couple weeks.
Yeah.
And
let's see who we got. We have I think we have. If my calendar would work right, that would be fantastic. Ha! There we go. Gosh, I should have this all written down. Next week, we have Jace with Florida Hauling and Demo. So he basically has a business in the community that he takes away all of our junk, does all kinds of clean outs, and if you need anything moved. And he is a young go-getter, and he makes me proud. It's like,
Yeah.
it's incredible to watch. He's one of the hardest workers I know. So anyway, we have him on next week, and then we also are going to have Steve Burns, and he owns a moving company here. So they're our next couple of weeks of who's coming in, and let's get you moved and get the house cleared out.
Yep. That's me. All right. Well, I'm sure you and I will be talking later about something.
Yep.
But again, if anybody has any questions, give us a call, reach out, and everybody have a good day.
All right. Happy Tuesday.
All right.
See you later.
Bye.